Okay, so back again. Just going to actually get something done and try to get a shot on video today. Last video we took, we were looking at the blown intake manifold gasket. You can see the gap and actually a little piece of the gasket sticking up right there. In order to get this manifold off the proper way, you do have to take off the injection lines on both sides, both the pump and injector side. Also, this thing needs to come off just to get that out of the way as well, so we can take the whole manifold off, get it on the bench, clean it up, and do all that. I'm hoping that's about it, all I have to take off. I might have to do some fuel lines, might have to take this fuel line off. I don't want to do that because then you have to bleed a lot more stuff, but we'll see how it goes. First, we take off the intake line, which is just hose clamped on there. Didn't even need that much, of course, because I've had this thing on and off several times over the last while working on this. I'm just going to loosen this one up as well. This one's a little tighter. Get these off. That one's still kind of tight. I don't want them to actually come apart, but I do want it loose. There we go. Get those out of the way, and this should, oh, I guess it's not going to pop off. This isn't the original intake hose. In fact, I'm not even really sure where this hose came from. I found it in my garage, probably an old radiator hose, really. Yeah, so this one's stuck on there pretty darn good. I may have to go get another tool to break that loose, so give me 1 minute, I'll be back. Okay, did not need a tool, just needed to drop the phone camera and use both hands. As you can see in there, light really sucks, but it's fairly clean, which I was kind of worried about because at one point I was getting oil in the intake line, which it seems to be nice and clean now, that's awesome. So that means things are working a little bit better than they were. So now we go on to the injector lines. The way I was instructed on doing this, the best way is to just crack them all. And again, these were all cracked when I rebuilt the engine, so they shouldn't need much, and I didn't torque them down with a bunch of monster torque because they really don't require it. They're kind of a compression fitting style, and it's a good way to wreck stuff by over tightening. This one is acting kind of strange. That one may have gotten over torqued, so we'll have to figure out what's going on here. So let me get these off and out of the way, and we'll be back. Okay, I figured out what's going on. It actually loosened up right here on that nut. So I've got to go get another wrench to try and crack those apart. That happens more often than not with these, but should be a quick fix. Okay, was able to get it cracked, and there we go with the final one off. These do come off all together. That's kind of nice. You don't have to take them off piece by piece. The first time I took them off, that's how I did it, but it is kind of handy if you can do it this way. It's also a good idea to just kind of sop up some of the extra fuel, because basically it's contaminated now, and you don't want that going into places where it doesn't belong. Okay, so what that does is that exposes all the bolts for the intake manifold. We've got this long one here, and then a couple short ones, and then this one down below there. And I think that is all I need to get underneath this thing. So we'll get those out of the way and keep moving on. Okay, cracked the other, the lower bolts, got those all nice and loose. These are coming out just fine as well. That is what I love about Kubota engines, is they usually come apart very quickly. This one is just a little bit tight. 10 millimeter socket, by the way, just with a little bit of an extension is all you need. And 17 millimeter on the injection lines. So this thing is just kind of being held on by friction, but boom, she popped right out of place. And yeah, that's a problem. That is a big problem. Really hoping, wow, that's a lot worse than I expected. So I am really hoping that this engine is not dusted once again, or perhaps this was the original cause of that, because the gasket's actually sucked in, which I thought was kind of crazy. Just looking at it now, I would have thought that by adding a little boost, it would have burst out, but this actually sucked in. So, yeah, interesting. Definitely needs to be replaced now. And yeah, you can see there's some dirt and buildup inside. I think that's technically number 3. This engine's in here in reverse. And you can actually see some of the dust, I think, that's been blown out of the intake there. So some cleanup, and I've already got the fresh gasket, but both of these surfaces need to be cleaned up very, very much before we go off. So we'll keep moving. Well, we made a little bit of progress on the cleanup. Still got some very stubborn gasket right over that bolt hole, and a lot of stubborn gasket over that bolt hole, and it's really making me regret not doing this while I had the head off and could work on it on a bench. So that's my own inexperience coming back to bite me. So take it from me, I guess, if you're going to pull one of these engines apart, regardless of what it is, take it all the way down. Do the intake manifold gasket while the head is off. So I'm going to keep working. I've basically been running with a scraper. Got a little wire brush here that I'm using very gently. A little brake clean, a little penetrating oil. Hopefully that can loosen up some of the gasket material. And mostly just elbow grease and rags, and even just a little bit of super fine grit sandpaper to try and clean everything up. You can kind of see I'm getting it there. I don't mind a little bit of grit showing on this. It's an intake manifold, and I am going to be using a gasket sealant when I put this thing back together, so that will kind of help fill in any unevenness. Not a silicone, it's just like I guess a high tack is what I hear it called most often. But I'm going to keep going on this, and hopefully I'll catch back up with you guys when it's finished. All right, so there is my nice clean intake gasket surface. I can see there may be a couple of, oh, that's just dirt. A couple of areas where it took a little bit. Had to get some little bit coarser grit sandpaper and just some elbow grease to keep it all going. But again, I'm really need to concentrate on this area here. I think this is a weak point based on the bolt pattern and how these things are put together. And of course now we're adding boost, so needs to be just a little bit stronger. So gonna keep tidying that up a little bit, and then of course we're on to working on this. So I'll get back to you when I have that a little done a little better. Okay, we are back. Just a little shot. I'm ready to put the gasket on. Got the surfaces about as clean as you want to spend getting them clean, I guess. You might be able to do better. If you can, go for it. This probably won't be the last time I take this engine apart. I would like to repaint it. You can see valve cover is looking pretty sad. The side of the engine is all looking sad. My goal is eventually to restore this thing and maybe even do a little resto mod to it. I found out GM makes a very similar color to this, but in a metal flake. In fact, I actually owned a truck that was that color, and it looks really cool. I have a small can of touch-up paint, kind of matched it up. So it'd be really cool to do this engine in a metal flake. And then of course, what I want to do, this is the old orange. That deck is actually the new orange. So I want to do the body in the new orange, and then of course, paint the wheels. They're kind of ugly. So anyways, probably going to be taking this all apart again before it's all said and done. But for now, we're just trying to get it to a point where I can justify keeping it. And of course, that means runs good and bags of grass. So next, I've got my OEM Kubota gasket, the lovely blue stuff. Can't really do this one-handed. So these are Telltale Kubota blue paper gaskets. They're really thick. They usually have writing on them, and they kind of have a cream or white material kind of woven into them. More modern Kubota gaskets are actually going to be kind of a graphite silver, but for all the old school guys, this is standard. So what I have now is some of this high-tack gasket sealant. I like to use this stuff when I can. The trick is doing this single-handedly, so I'll probably pause for a minute. Okay, so I got it sprayed. There's the gasket actually kind of stuck in place there. It's a great time to align all your bolt holes and everything. It is going to move around when I put the intake manifold on. But at least it is close, and I don't know. It's not going on the way I want it to. There we go. And I think we're set in place. And let me see if I can get a bolt in. Okay, so I was able to get a bolt in that area. This will probably be the next one. That one's in well enough. That one's got a bite. Perfect. That one's got a bite too. And last but not least, the little guy down at the bottom here. Okay, well, I'll get this tightened back up and start putting everything back together. And we're back on, and pretty well torqued down. These are only 8mm bolts, so you're looking at 15 to 20 foot-pounds. Of course, with the gasket sealant on there, that's just going to help hold everything in place. I didn't get too crazy. Like I said, probably going to end up taking all this apart. That gasket sealant's probably going to be ticking me off when I go to take it apart, but it's a start. So next, we're going to go back to the injector lines. And these guys are always a blast. but the more you can get done finger tight, the better off you are. And we're gonna leave the injector side pretty well just finger tight, because we will be bleeding them and you will have to crank it over. So we're not gonna get too crazy. This one isn't even seated very well. I think it twisted on me while we were, yeah, that one is not seating. You can see it's kind of just a flared compression fitting, and you hope everything just kind of lines up real nice. There we go. Okay, so these aren't even tight, they're just threaded, because again, we'll be bleeding the air out of them. What the best thing to do with these is to kind of pull them up out of the way, and these we are going to want to get tight. This one somehow kind of got torqued. They're all kind of a little bit off. So I'm going to take a minute and adjust those. So this is them. The injector lines kind of all put back in place. This side is tight like it's supposed to be. Now, the tendency is you think, oh man, injectors are under super high pressure. Those things got to be super tight. No, not really. The flare fitting or the compression fitting does a really good job of keeping them sealed. But of course, we'll find out if I got it good enough once the engine's running again. Again, these are still loose because we need to be able to see diesel come out of here. But we don't want to take them too far off that they pop out of place. That's bad. So I've reconnected the battery to make sure the fuel pump is running, bleeding. I didn't do anything up to the injection pump, so it should be fine. And then we'll go ahead and crank. Okay. Not seeing anything quite yet. Oh, yeah, there's a little fuel coming out of that one. And yeah, that one, I think we're good on that one. They will self-bleed eventually once you get it running, but this is just supposed to get it to fire off faster. So let's give it some glow plug. For those of you who are unaware, on old machines, that's your glow plug indicator. When she glows red hot, that means your glow plugs are red hot. And guess what? It takes a while. So let's try her again. Okay, still not much yet. We are definitely good on injectors 1 and 2. 3 is still leaving a little bit to be desired. There we go. And right as you saw the fuel pop out of there, you heard the engine wanna come to life, which is awesome because I think my battery's going dead again. So let's try giving it a little glow plug. See if she'll turn orange. Probably not, because the lighting in here sucks. Yeah, she wants to go. And now that I know that we're bled, we can put this hose back on give her one more shot to see if she'll fire. I don't think so. A little more glow plug to help. Just had to give it one more chance to start and give it a little more fuel. And it seems to be running really good. Was running pretty smooth, but wants to argue with me a little bit, so I don't know if maybe there's some more air in that system. I want to wear out. So I'll take her out, maybe run it around the yard. See what happens. But other than that, there's a